Owl's Head Lighthouse, the watcher on the cliffs. Perched atop a rocky promontory overlooking Penobscot Bay, Maine, Owl's Head Lighthouse has stood since the early 19th century as a stoic guardian of mariners. While it was originally conceived for purely practical reasons, to prevent shipwrecks in fog-drenched waters, the lighthouse has since transcended its function. Today, it is a symbol of Maine's rugged coastline, a beloved landmark, and to some, a haunted structure echoing with the spectral memories of its storied past. Owl's Head is located in Knox County, near Rockland, Maine. It juts into Penobscot Bay, one of the most trafficked maritime corridors in the northeastern United States during the 1800s. Its name comes from the promontory's shape, which some say resembles the head of an owl with wide eyes staring toward the Atlantic. As shipping increased during the 19th century, the need for safe navigation through the bay became evident. Rocky shoals, unpredictable fog, and fierce Atlantic storms made the bay treacherous, claiming numerous vessels. The US government identified Owl's Head as a critical site for aiding coastal navigation. Owl's Head Lighthouse was commissioned in 1825 under the administration of President John Quincy Adams. The original structure stood only 30 feet tall, but its positioning on a high bluff gave it a commanding presence. Its light, produced by whale oil lamps, reached far into the bay. Early construction was rudimentary. The tower was conical, made of rubble stone and lined with brick. A wooden keeper's house stood adjacent to the tower, often battered by winds and harsh weather. The first keeper, Isaac Stearns, was a former sea captain. He kept meticulous logs that described not only his duties, tending the lamp, recording weather, maintaining the structure, but also his isolation and the eerie sensations of hearing unexplained footsteps in the fog. From 1825 until the lighthouse was automated in 1989, Owl's Head had a long line of keepers. Some were military veterans, others were locals who passed the job down through generations. The keepers were more than caretakers of light, they were lifesavers, often risking their lives to rescue stranded sailors. One of the most famous keepers was Spot T, who served in the late 1800s. He was known for his incredible dedication, once rowing into a storm to guide a stranded schooner with a handheld lantern. Tragically, he died of pneumonia days later. His courage remains a point of pride for the community. Though built to preserve life, Owl's Head Lighthouse is surrounded by the echoes of tragedy. Its perch above the rocky shoreline of Penobscot Bay has witnessed countless disasters, some caused by nature's wrath, others by human error, and many still shrouded in mystery. These stories, carried on sea winds and passed from generation to generation, form a darker undercurrent to the lighthouse's proud silhouette. The Isabella, a three-masted schooner out of Boston, met her fate during a brutal nor'easter in December 1850. She had been sailing from Halifax with a hold full of timber bound for Portland when snow, gale-force winds, and limited visibility drove her off course. In those days, the Owl's Head light, powered by whale oil and often dimmed by frost-covered glass, struggled to cut through thick fog or heavy snow. At some point in the early hours of the storm, the Isabella struck the submerged rocks just below the lighthouse. The hull splintered with such violence that the ship broke into two within minutes. The keeper on duty, hearing the crash, was helpless to respond amid the blizzard. Morning revealed the scene: shattered timber, barrels, and human bodies strewn along the shore. Miraculously, one survivor, a young cabin boy, was found clinging to a barrel that had washed ashore. Barely alive and half frozen, he was taken into the keeper's house, nursed back to health by the keeper's wife, and eventually sent home to his family. The boy later described a ghostly figure walking along the shoreline just before the ship struck, perhaps the first hint of the hauntings that would come to define the area. Among the most heartbreaking stories connected to Owl's Head is the death of the keeper's daughter in the winter of 1906. Though records of her name vary, some accounts refer to her as Lucy or Margaret. What is certain is that she was just 10 years old when tragedy struck. One frigid January morning, she ventured out with her father to assist with the day's tasks. Her job was to bring a fresh oil canister to the base of the tower. The steps leading from the keeper's house to the lighthouse were slick with black ice, and without a railing or cleats, they were especially treacherous in winter. She slipped just near the top step and tumbled nearly 20 feet, striking her head on the granite rocks below. Her father reached her moments later, but it was too late. She died in his arms, and her body was buried in a small family plot nearby. Her mother, devastated, left the lighthouse within the year, unable to remain in the place where she lost her daughter. To this day, her spirit is said to linger. Visitors and staff alike have reported hearing a child's laughter near the tower or catching a fleeting glimpse of a small girl in white, especially during the coldest months. Another maritime disaster, the wreck of the Adelia, occurred in the fall of 1871. Bound from New York to Bangor, Maine, she was carrying livestock, produce, and building supplies. Caught in a sudden squall, she ran aground near Owl's Head in the dead of night. Despite her proximity to the lighthouse, shifting shoals and miscommunication between the captain and his crew led her directly into danger. The impact broke the keel, and the hold flooded instantly. 7 of the 11 men aboard perished. What made the Adelia's wreck especially gruesome was the nature of her cargo. For days after the incident, mutilated animal carcasses and crates of rotting vegetables washed ashore, creating a scene of grim decay. Locals were haunted by the imagery. Even seasoned fishermen recalled that the smell and the cries of trapped livestock echoed in their dreams for months after. The Adelia was never fully salvaged, and divers in the 1970s reported finding parts of her iron frame still resting in the murky seabed. In one of Owl's Head's greatest unsolved mysteries, a keeper by the name of Elisha Harding reportedly vanished in 1882. His disappearance was recorded by the assistant keeper, who found the tower abandoned one morning with the beacon unlit. A serious breach of duty at a time when the light was crucial for safe passage. A search of the surrounding grounds and shoreline turned up nothing. His coat and boots were left by the door, and his breakfast was still warm on the stove. Despite extensive searches conducted over several days, not a trace of him was ever found. Speculation ran rampant. Some believed he had slipped on the rocks and been taken by the sea. Others whispered of foul play, or even suicide born from isolation. However, later keepers insisted his spirit had returned, claiming to feel his presence or to see a man in a long wool coat gazing out at the sea during storms. Whether lost to madness, murder, or misstep, Harding's story became yet another eerie thread in Owl's Head's legacy. Though not a specific wreck, the legend of the ghost ship near Owl's Head ties into several historical disasters. Mariners and residents alike have described a recurring vision seen on foggy nights, a glowing outline of a schooner sailing silently across the bay, only to vanish before reaching shore. Historians speculate that this apparition might be connected to one of several documented wrecks, including the Mary Brown, which burned and sank in the 1850s with all hands lost. Skeptics chalk the sightings up to atmospheric phenomena known as Fata Morgana, but for those who've seen it, the experience is unforgettable. It is said that when the ghost ship appears, a tragedy is soon to follow, be it at sea or on land. These tragedies illustrate not just the perils of early maritime life, but the emotional cost borne by lighthouse keepers and their families. At Owl's Head, the light didn't just guide ships. It bore silent witness to immense human suffering. Generations of keepers carried the weight of these stories. Their diaries speak not only of maintenance and maritime duty, but of grief, fear, and strange happenings they could not explain. For every rescue celebrated, there was often a body buried beneath the cliffs or a name added to the growing list of those lost to the sea. Even today, the lighthouse carries that legacy. Visitors often describe a heaviness near the rocks, as though the land itself remembers. The wind through the trees whispers names long forgotten, and the sea laps gently, now perhaps, but never without memory. By the mid-20th century, Owl's Head underwent a series of modernizations. The whale oil lamp gave way to kerosene, and eventually to electricity. The Fresnel lens, first order, was installed in the late 1850s, improving visibility significantly. During World War II, the US Coast Guard manned the lighthouse, fearing that German submarines might approach via the bay. Owl's Head was wired into regional defense systems, and some local teens reported seeing strange lights out to sea during wartime blackouts. In 1989, the lighthouse was fully automated. A solar-powered beacon replaced the old system. Though practical, many lamented the end of the keeper era, feeling that a piece of the lighthouse's soul had dimmed. Few lighthouses in America are as steeped in ghost lore as Owl's Head. One of the most famous hauntings involves the lighthouse keeper's ghost. Coast Guard personnel in the 1970s reported mysterious footsteps climbing the tower at night. Doors opened by unseen hands, and the tower's lantern would swing when no wind was present. A married Coast Guard couple living there claimed to see a bearded man in oilskins peering at them through the bedroom window. When they investigated, no one was there, and no footprints were found in the snow. Another tale involves a small girl in a white dress seen standing at the edge of the cliff. Visitors have mistaken her for a living child, only for her to vanish before their eyes. Some believe this is the spirit of the keeper's daughter who died in 1906. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice recordings at the site, one reportedly saying, "The light must shine." Cold spots, battery drains, and unexplained fogs are frequent during overnight visits. While Owl's Head Lighthouse stands as a tangible symbol of maritime resilience and technological progress, it is equally a place steeped in oral tradition, myth, and mystery. Long before the lighthouse was constructed, and long after its beacon began to cut through Penobscot Bay's infamous fog, the region around Owl's Head inspired stories that blurred the line between the natural and the supernatural. From indigenous legends to sailor superstitions and ghostly folklore, this chapter explores the rich tapestry of local beliefs and how they've shaped and been shaped by the presence of the lighthouse itself. Long before the first European settlers arrived in what is now Maine, the land surrounding Owl's Head was home to the Wabanaki people, including the Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, and Mi'kmaq tribes. Their relationship with the land and sea was both spiritual and practical, and their oral traditions remain a vital thread in the region's cultural fabric. One of the oldest known legends connected to the promontory where the lighthouse now sits is that of the Kokakasu, or owl spirit. In Wabanaki mythology, the owl is often seen as a guardian of the boundary between life and death, a creature who sees what others cannot. According to legend, the owl spirit nested in the cliffs of Penobscot Bay and watched over the waters, ensuring the safe passage of those who respected the land and punishing those who defied it. Some Wabanaki elders say that the spirit became angry when the government blasted rock and dug foundations to build the lighthouse. From that moment forward, storms became more intense, and the fog thickened unnaturally in that area. According to these stories, the lighthouse disrupted the sacred balance of the place, and the owl spirit has never fully forgiven it. Visitors sometimes report seeing a shadowy winged figure circling the tower during stormy nights, too large for a bird, too silent for a man. Whether that's the imagination or something older and stranger, the locals do not dismiss it lightly. One of the most persistent and unnerving pieces of local folklore is the tale of the fog walker, a a spectral figure said to drift silently across the bay or along the shoreline when the fog is thickest. Descriptions vary slightly. Some say he wears a hooded cloak. Others describe him in seaman's garb, but the figure always walks slowly, sometimes carrying a lantern, sometimes with empty hands outstretched. First recorded in the early 1800s, the legend of the fog walker gained prominence after several sailors swore they saw him on the rocks just before their ship struck them. Survivors of the Adelia wreck even claimed they saw a grey man standing motionless near the surf minutes before the ship ran aground. Some theorize the fog walker is a guardian spirit, warning sailors of danger. Others believe he is a death omen, appearing just before tragedy. Paranormal investigators in recent years have reported seeing strange, human-shaped figures in thermal images taken during foggy nights, though these claims remain controversial. A local saying endures: "If you see the fog walker, turn back to shore." The coastline around Owl's Head was once a favourite haunt of privateers and smugglers, especially during the American Revolution and the War of 1812. The cliffs, caves and hidden coves made for ideal storage sites, and many believe treasure remains buried somewhere in the vicinity. One of the most persistent legends involves a British privateer named Captain John Blackjack Harriman. He was said to have buried several crates of Spanish silver near Owl's Head in 1798 before fleeing back across the Atlantic. He never returned, reportedly dying of fever in Jamaica. In the early 1900s, a group of treasure hunters claimed to find fragments of old wooden crates, rusted nails, and a single Spanish doubloon near the base of the cliffs. Since then, others have tried to locate the lost treasure, but none have succeeded. Locals believe the treasure is cursed, guarded by the ghost of Blackjack himself, who appears as a spectral figure near the rocks, dressed in 18th century naval uniform, particularly during the full moon. Some even say a strange blue flame flickers on the cliffs on certain nights, a sign that treasure is near, but diggers beware. According to legend, anyone who attempts to uncover the loot without first offering a token to the sea will meet a watery death. Another tale passed down through generations is that of the cursed bell, a story often told by former lighthouse keepers and local fishermen. According to this legend, a replacement fog bell was delivered to Owl's Head in the late 1800s. It had originally been cast for a church in Boston, but the church burned down before it could be installed. The bell was salvaged and repurposed for lighthouse use. From the moment it was mounted, however, strange things began to happen. Keepers complained that the bell rang at odd times, when no fog was present, sometimes in perfect weather. One assistant keeper, who reportedly mocked the bell's haunted reputation, was found unconscious at its base, with no signs of injury, only deep scratches on his face and chest. He left his post the next day and refused to speak of what had happened. The bell was eventually removed in the early 20th century, and the incident stopped. It now rests in a maritime museum in Rockland, and some visitors claim they can hear it ringing faintly, especially during rainstorms. Staff reportedly avoid staying near the bell after dark. The lore of Owl's Head isn't just something from the past. It's a living, evolving body of stories that continues to grow with each new generation. Visitors bring their own experiences, odd sensations, sudden chills, strange sounds. Paranormal investigators add new data, and ghost tour guides introduce fresh interpretations of old tales. In this way, Owl's Head becomes more than a lighthouse. It becomes a repository of collective imagination, shaped by fear, wonder, and the primal relationship between humans and the sea. It is a place where the veil between natural and supernatural feels thin, where each gust of wind might carry a whisper, and every crashing wave might conceal a secret. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, standing at Owl's Head on a foggy evening with the light sweeping across the bay, you may find it hard to dismiss the feeling that you are not alone. Owl's Head served as a minor outpost during the Civil War, with Union patrol boats using its light as a guide. In both World Wars, the US Navy maintained contact with lighthouse keepers, integrating the light into navigational defense systems. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, records show that the Coast Guard stationed temporary observers at the lighthouse, anticipating submarine activity. Its role as a silent sentinel during these crises adds to its mystique. Forever watching, always waiting. Today, Owl's Head Lighthouse is part of Owl's Head State Park and is managed by the American Lighthouse Foundation. Restoration efforts have preserved both the tower and the adjacent keeper's house, now serving as a museum. It's a popular tourist destination, especially in autumn when the surrounding woods blaze with color. Tours offer not just historical insights, but also ghost walks and paranormal evenings. Volunteers and local historians continue to care for the site, ensuring that its legacy, both historical and spectral, remains alive for future generations. Visitors to Owl's Head can enjoy breathtaking views of Penobscot Bay, a short wooded hike to the lighthouse, and the chance to walk up into the tower when open. The museum offers exhibits on the life of lighthouse keepers, shipwreck relics, and paranormal phenomena reported over the years. Night tours are available in October, and ghost hunters often stake out the grounds for supernatural activity. The American Lighthouse Foundation accepts donations to fund restoration, educational programs, and preservation of lighthouses across Maine. Owl's Head Lighthouse is more than a navigational aid. It is a monument to bravery, sacrifice, and human endurance. It is also, perhaps, a thin place, a site where the veil between the living and the dead wears just a little thinner. Its light may be automated, its tower restored, but its mysteries endure. Owl's Head remains a beacon not only through fog and storm, but through time, memory, and the haunting mysteries of the past.